live stream every day. I do have other stuff to do, and I have work to do and stuff like that. And also, I was studying a bit yesterday, and yeah, I was just studying, cleaning up, and stuff like that. But today I'm discussing Trump's master plan. I do want to say that all this content is just for entertainment purposes only. I'm not trying to argue with any friends or family. If you try to argue with me about stuff, I'm not really here to do that. Everyone can have their own political opinions, and I respect it. And I respect everyone, but I'm just doing this to make content. I'm not actually like trying to waste a bunch of my time like explaining my opinions like I do on YouTube because this is just for the YouTube. But yeah, I do respect everyone's opinions, and sure, sometimes I'll educate people on certain topics, friends and family. Yeah, I think that's important, but I'm not here to argue back and forth with people. I'm not here to do all this. Is just for the YouTube. This is just to build my friends and followers here, and we're making lots of new friends and followers. I don't really want to call them subscribers because I really do appreciate everyone that's subscribed to my YouTube. I've made different friends with people all around the world, doing these videos and just talking about stuff. And it's a friendly manner, but basically I have a little bit of time right now to chat with you guys before I have to go do some things. So I figured why not? And in the background, I'll do some other stuff. But yeah, we're just discussing. I'm revealing Trump's master plan to you. A lot of people don't understand tariffs and the economy and economics, and they don't understand treasuries and the stock market. If you don't really understand that, then maybe it's something that you shouldn't be trying to think too hard about unless you're willing to educate yourself, which, if you don't know about it, it's going to take years to do. But basically, I'm here to give like a short analysis on the recent tariff situation and Trump's master plan. So Trump is trying to crash the stock market at least 20%. I think he'll try to crash it even more than that, causing a flight into treasuries. If you guys don't know what treasury bonds are and treasuries are, for example, one of my friends started buying treasuries when the stock market was taking a giant tank in 2023 and stuff like that. And here, I'll pull up some numbers for you guys to see so you can really get an idea on the situation. I mean, there's a million memes I can show about it, but I'll show like this one meme that I have that's pretty funny. Give me a second, guys. Give me a second. Hope everyone's having a good morning or a good afternoon wherever you're coming from. Inside the United States, outside the United States, I love to hear it. Where is this meme? Literally, I think I like screenshotted it. Okay, no, I know exactly where to find it actually because I remember I sent it to someone. So yeah, here is this. In 2023, one of my friends, he had like $30,000 in the stock market. I really inspired him to build his portfolio and stuff like that when he saw how well I was doing. He started his new military job as a Coast Guard, so he was making good money, and he finally got his portfolio to a good size, like $20,000 or $30,000. And he wasn't really taking this advice from me personally, but of course, during this time in 2023, he was buying treasury bonds because the stock market wasn't giving much returns, and through the treasury bonds, he got like 5 or 6% yearly. I mean, he just put like $10,000 in there, and it's guaranteed money, unlike the stock market, because you're basically loaning money to the government, and they give you a guaranteed interest rate back. Um, but yeah, so like I said, this meme is hilarious, and obviously from here, I think this is just the beginning. The stock market still hasn't opened in the USA. We're still about 2 hours away from that, but I know other markets around the world are collapsing. We can take a look at that. Um, Everyone is saying buy the dip, but Honestly, this is not even like, we're not even 2 weeks into Trump's tariffs yet. That might be a little bit premature unless you have a lot of money. Or unless you just got your paycheck, then I guess it's something. But yeah, even Trump posted on his, let's talk about this for a second. 8% of Americans own all the stocks that Americans own. 8%. That just shows you the main people that are affected by this are the ultra wealthy and the ultra rich. Like people my age, people that are in their 30s, their mid 30s even, they don't care about their damn 401ks that they can't touch for 20 more years. Like that's the most ridiculous shit in the world. The only people that are affecting this is the ultra wealthy, and I'm pretty sure if you have more than $100,000, $200,000, millions of dollars in the stock market, you can handle a 5% dip or a 10% dip. Like, don't cry and hit yourself over the head. Like, it's not a big deal. I mean, that's just like losing 5K from 100 something thousand dollars. But let's see what else. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, as I was saying, I didn't fully explain Trump's plan. So he's trying to move money into the treasuries, and this will cause the Fed to slash interest rate, and he can refinance the debt of the United States to 0%, and cause a deflationary spiral, which will lower the cost of everything, groceries, everything, especially with interest rates lower. Farmers can buy equipment cheaper. Farmers can acquire more land for cheaper. He also intends to use the tariffs as an incentive to build U.S. companies and bring back jobs to America, like factory jobs and stuff like that that we haven't had for a really long time. A really, really long time. Um, my generation never saw all those jobs and the economic boom that the previous generation saw. All we saw was economic suffering and loss of jobs. Like, we already survived 2 or 3 recessions. We're pretty much bulletproof at this point if we can keep going. Like, we're literally bulletproof. I don't think any other generation survived like 3 recessions in like 15 years. Like, no, they did not survive 3 recessions in 15 years like people my age have. He also uses, as I was saying, the tariffs going to help resulting in global trade war, which will force American farmers to sell more of their goods in the U.S. due to regulatory trade measures by other countries, which will directly lower the grocery prices in the USA. More than 94% of all stocks market is owned by 8% of the US population. I pretty much already said that. Trump has literally taken money from the rich, giving it to the poor. Now, I guarantee you that Trump is getting constant phone calls from his rich buddies. They're like, what the fuck? Sorry about my language, but what the hell? Why would you do this to us? We're billionaires, we're millionaires. All of our stocks are down. Why would you do this to us? He doesn't care about them. Like, it's quite obvious. If you're literally going to tank the entire stock market, you don't care about the people with millions or hundreds of thousands or billions of dollars. You just don't care about it. You care about America first. Honestly, I think that's why Trump went way too easy on his first election on the tariffs and stuff like that. He didn't really tariff anybody too much. He just tariffed like China a little bit. That was it. Now that it's his last term, he is going to terrorize them to the absolute maximum. He doesn't care about his rich buddies anymore. He doesn't care about the complaints. He's not trying to get elected again. I mean, even though he did talk about it, I think he was just joking around, pissing off the liberals. But J.D. Vance would be a good president for 2028. And I don't think the liberals ever stand a chance again. I don't think they ever stand a chance again. They're going to cry and say, no, you're wrong. Look at all the protesters. Look at all the protesters. Yeah, you're talking about all these people that are wasting their time protesting. Like, honestly, I would never protest in my life because peaceful protest does absolutely nothing. Look at the Vietnam War. Talking to people that lived in war-torn countries, they told me themselves, peaceful protest never does anything. You can't get rid of a leader with peaceful protest. That's not going to do anything. And yeah, this man Donald Trump is ready to go to war. He has his AR-15 ready, and he's fighting against the enemy. He doesn't care if the whole country does a damn protest. All these people literally get no benefits. I mean, lots of them are paid, I'm sure. Like, they're paid protesters, but at the same time, what the hell? Like, what the hell are you wasting your life doing that for? At least if you're going to do it, you can record or make a video out of it. I mean, I guess that's something beneficial out of it, but if you're just going to stand there and scream your lungs off out at people, or if you're just going to send a bunch of messages crying about it, then I really don't think that's really doing anything. You're just causing yourself physical harm at that point. But this man, Trump, doesn't care. He's going against the Americans. He's going against every single country. He's going to bring back American jobs. He's going to make it like the 1950s, possibly, or the closest possible thing to it. And honestly, like I read before, I think he's trying to collapse at 20%. I don't think 20% is enough. I think he should bring the entire market down 50%. That way we can really get the money in the treasuries. We can really get the interest rate down. And yeah, I think he should crash it to 50%. I don't think he should, I think he should make it long term. He really needs to threaten them. There's not enough threats he can make against these countries that put 90% tariffs on us before we did a single thing to them. Before we did a single thing to Vietnam, they just want to put a 90% tariff on us. What did we do to deserve a 90% tariff? I mean, we warred over there. We should be selling our American products. You're telling me that Vietnam War was for nothing? We can't even sell our American products over there? That's ridiculous. Like, that is ridiculous. And no one's whining about all the stock market chaos that we had in 2023 when the market wasn't growing at all or it was slowly shrinking. Like, I'd rather be a 50% dip or a 20% dip than a slow shrinkage like it was under Biden. And no matter what I say, a lot of people won't listen to me anyway, but you don't have to whine about it. You don't have to whine about it. Anyway, let's start a poll in here. What do you guys think of tariffs? Almost every single time I started a poll to see what you think of tariffs, people always say that they're good, majority of them. If tariffs aren't good, then use this logic. If you want to cry about it, then why does every other country do it to us first? Starting a poll now. You guys can tell me what you think. Now you can see this is a little bit of a troll as well. The reason I made the thumbnail of this because I know it's going to piss off the Democrats. They hate the idea that Trump could be king. But I know he's not a king, guys. I'm not an idiot. He literally got the popular vote. How can you compare Trump to a king? You have to have no brain cells to compare him to a king. And most of these libtards, like, what's that one chick's name? The one chick that moved to Ireland, I can't think of her name off the top of my head. Rosie O'Donnell. She literally moved to a monarch. I mean, actually, no, maybe I'm wrong. I think Ireland has a president. But either way, their government's kind of under the rule of the UK, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a monarchy. And plenty of Democrats are moving to monarchies, ironically. I guess they really didn't believe in democracy. But Trump, that man is just trying to save America. Other than why do you think he would put tariffs on? That doesn't help his rich buddies. How does that help his rich buddies? Like all this shit they claim. How does that help his rich friends? hurting millionaires and billionaires inside of the United States short term. I mean, I guess Jim Cramer, literally the worst stock market analyst on television, has complained about him, which is low key a good sign because there is ironically enough, there's a stock market tracker of Nancy Pelosi. You know, it's like the number one or the number two stock market tracker. Inverse Jim Cramer literally has almost as much profits as Nancy Pelosi's stock market. Inverse Jim Cramer means do exactly the opposite of what Jim Cramer says because he's a moron. How the hell does this? I'm sure this dude has formal education, financial education, but it seems like his emotions always get in the way of things. Trump is the GOAT, except he's kind of a Jewish skirl. I don't know what you said about that, but yeah, let's be honest here. Every single president does exactly what Netanyahu says and exactly what Israel wants. I mean, it doesn't matter what president it is. It's obviously because, don't cancel me, YouTube, but it's obviously because, they have a lot of power in America. And that's not a conspiracy theory, that's just the truth. But I know a lot of people have been canceled for saying things about, Jewish people, but I'm not saying anything negative. That's a positive thing. For them. If you think that it's pointless, please let me know why Trump's tariffs are pointless. Do you understand that other countries put tariffs on us first? Or are you just completely ignoring that? Someone said an interesting thing to me, which I think is kind of like something you would say if you think negotiation in business is kind of soft-minded and easy. Just ask them to take away the tariffs. Just ask them to take away the tariffs. I mean, that's an interesting idea, but I don't think they would put the tariffs on in the first place if all we did was have to ask. Like, if all we did was have to ask, we definitely wouldn't even have the tariffs. But I do think Trump believes in free trade. He didn't want this to ever come to be, but what other choice do we have when like 180 countries have high tariffs against us? And I know everyone's protesting in these big liberal cities. Honestly, I kind of feel mixed about it. I wish I was there to record them, but at the same time, I know I would have to carry a firearm with me to protect myself against these crazy people. But I don't have a problem with that either. But yeah, I've seen some of these protests, and these liberals are carrying AR-15s, AK-47s. And yeah, I know that Republicans are known to be gun toters too. Maybe they're carrying some guns. It is America. They have the Second Amendment. But like, Jesus Christ, why would you go there if all these people have guns unless you're like a news reporter? I don't know, man. It seems like a risky thing. I'm glad I'm not in a country that does these crazy protests. But I know smaller cities and smaller areas, they don't really have the protests. It's not really all around America. If you're not coming, if you're outside of America, you probably see these news articles and you say, oh my God, these protests are everywhere. They're everywhere. No, they're really not. They're just in the most liberal cities in the United States, the cities that pretty much already voted for Kamala Harris. And all the people that I've noticed that go to these rallies and stuff like that, they're all like really like retired. They're like 50 years or older. It's no one that actually, like has a job and has like things they want to build and businesses and stuff they actually want to work on and build towards. It's just people that have nothing else to do. Basically, they're retired. And they'll try to drag their husbands. You'll see like their 60 or 70-year-old husbands there. They're just kind of making a face like, why the hell am I here? Even though they might support Biden or whoever, that's just their honest face. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. We got Trump here with the AR-15. What else am I gonna say? What else am I gonna say?
Tariff and trade barrier country in the world is China, and they don't have inflation. So these things don't occur the way people suggest they do. This is a reordering of global trade for the benefit of America. These people have all been living in our house. They've been driving our car. They come by and visit, open our fridge, and eat our food whenever they want. They've taken advantage of us.
Welcome back to Sunday Night in America. Trade is not the only reason to crack down on China. China steals intellectual property and floods the market with cheap, dangerous knockoffs and allows fentanyl to flow and competes against domestic manufacturers who have to follow different rules. Yes, there are 1.5 billion potential customers in China, but at what cost? And speaking of trade, the U.S. does not use
Customers? When have they bought anything from us ever?
And the Houthis don't care who they shoot at. So is there an American interest in taking the Houthis out? Tom Cotton served in uniform and chairs the Senate Intel Committee. Welcome, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being with us. Tariffs are dominating the conversation, but China doesn't trade fairly even without this current debate. So what should our trade approach be with that country?
Well, good evening, Trey. Thanks for having me on. As it happens, I've just written a book about China, and in no small part about the way they cheated American workers and businesses for decades. As I argue in 7 Things You Can't Say About China, China has waged an economic world war, especially against the United States, going back several decades. They've subsidized their own companies. They give them all kinds of concessions on taxes and land and regulation. Oftentimes they own these companies, something no American company can compete with fairly. At the same time, they attack our companies. They hack into their systems to steal their intellectual property. They exclude them from the Chinese market. They have forced technology transfers if they admit them to the Chinese market. So what President Trump has long tried to do is level the playing field with communist China. And it's not just the tariffs, as you say, they're also taking important policy steps like closing the so-called de minimis loophole, which allows hundreds of dollars of goods and individual orders to come to the United States from China, undermining American businesses, evading American tax and tariff laws. He closed that as well. So that's just a small first step to making communist China play by the same rules that the rest of the civilized world does.
Chairman, in addition to being a prolific author, you served in uniform. I consider you to be a military expert. I spent some time recently with the president of Finland. He went to college in the U.S., by the way. You probably knew that. They share a long border with Russia. So he's watching the future of NATO, particularly as the U.S. relates to NATO. What do you think the future of NATO is?
Well, I think the future of NATO is strong, especially if our European partners will begin to step up and pull their share of the load again. You have some serious countries like Finland, a new entrant to NATO, who has long taken its responsibility for our common defense seriously because of the threat that Russia poses to it, or Poland or the Baltic nations, for instance. We need all European nations to step up, to spend more on their military so they can do more to provide for our common defense. Back during the Cold War, the divide between the United States and the rest of NATO was about 50-50. since the Cold War, it's trended more towards like 70-30. That's not something that the United States can tolerate anymore when we're called upon, for instance, to support our friends in the Middle East, like Israel, or take on a bunch of rebel outlaws in Yemen who are shooting at our sailors, and most importantly, to deter the threat of communist China in the Pacific. Europe has to do more for our common defense. If they do, the future of NATO is very strong.
All right, I'm going to pick up there, Chairman. There was talk recently about, I think the phrase was bailing Europe out. I don't consider World War I or World War II to be bailing Europe out so much as protecting Western values. The Houthis are enemies of the U.S., not just Europe. Do you think we were right to strike them regardless of how much we may use the Suez Canal?
Oh, no question, Trey. I think the president was totally right. And this is long overdue, as I argued throughout the last 15 months of the Biden administration, since the October 7th attacks against Israel. We let our sailors sit on the Red Sea like sitting ducks. These outlaw rebels in Yemen have shot at us dozens and dozens of times. I think our policy should be pretty simple. If you hit us, we're going to hit you back many times harder. But Joe Biden never did that. Donald Trump has done it. He's begun to teach these rebels a lesson. They are a cat's paw of Iran, and there's indications now that Iran is beginning to pull back its support for Yemen as well. So I think it's a long overdue action. I commend President Trump for taking it. We need to make sure we finish the job against these rebels. As he said very clearly, if you stop shooting at us, we'll stop shooting at you. But if you keep shooting at us, we'll hit back many times harder.
All right, before I let you go, and I've only got a couple of seconds, but you are a military intelligence expert. Other than Little League Baseball with your sons, what keeps you up at night? What's an issue that we're not thinking about that the chairman of Senate Intel is?
Well, I think there's a lot of talk in the news about Iran's nuclear program, but I think it's a little too cramped. What really worries me about Iran's nuclear program is that it's married up to a missile program. So if they got nuclear weapons, they wouldn't just be able to attack our friends in Israel or in the Arab world. They could strike the United States in just a matter of a few years, much like North Korea can now as well. So I don't think there's enough focus on the imminent threat that Iran's nuclear program poses, not just to our friends in the Middle East, but to the United States itself.
Chairman Tom Cotton, always love having you on. You are a wealth of information. Thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you, Trey.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey,
If you guys don't like the tariffs, please explain why they're useless. I never get any message about that.
All of this signaling the market's idea that we're looking at much greater odds of a recession, not just here, but globally. Bitcoin actually dropping below 80,000 right now. It's at 76,470.
74 for a while. Yeah, it's a market phenomenon at this point, not economic, but it's getting awful close. And you look at junk bond spreads as well. That Journal has a good piece on when you'll start to see the markets indicating that this is spreading to the economy.
Well, that's the question. I think there's a real issue about contagion, and it's possibly, by the way, a day away at the rate we're going.
Well, normally the dollar goes up when
It's not really.
scariness like this, and it's not. It bounced
I don't know
on
if that's
Friday.
a reflection of the dollar.
That's a
or
reflection
of
not confidence in
flight to
what's
quality has
happening.
gone to treasuries. It has
Right,
not
but
gone to the
what
dollar
I'm
like
saying
it
is I think you can
typically
start to
would.
see, at some point, there are going to be investment firms that are going to blow up, that are on margin. There are going to be private credit operations that are going to run into trouble, that won't be able to provide credit to small businesses and large businesses.
And that's when it starts to go to the economy itself.
Well, but by the way, by default,
I think it already is.
by default, this is already forecasting what we all think is going to happen in the economy. But yes, is this already going to impact the economy? Do you think that retirees who are watching the broadcast right now are running out to buy a new anything right now? No.
I've got a daughter graduating next month. Like, what's the job market look like? What are companies going to
Right?
do?
Everybody's freaking out of their minds. And so this is like
It's good to keep
a
them
true man-made disaster.
It's self-inflicted, and that they got too cute by a factor of about 10 with the way they calculated the tariffs, because the tariffs are not nearly as high as what that weird equation brought, and it allowed them to make an offer that seemed reasonable, like a half, which really wasn't a half. It's much higher than that, and that allows them, I think, to pretend that they're giving a little when they're really just getting. It shouldn't be over.
But here's
they're
the
way too
next
high.
problem. If you're the administration, the longer this goes on, the harder it actually is to make a good deal. Meaning to actually walk away with a win. Because if you are
Nah, this guy is pumping. I don't like this guy. He's pumping, what's the word? Fear into the market. Of course he is. It's CNBC. So, it's fake news. It's fearful news. But hit the like and subscribe button if you're new to the channel.
Hello, everybody. Good. Are any questions? Very good. Because I won. It's good to win. You heard I won, right? Did you hear I won? Just to back it up over there, I won.
What's your handicap
I like
these
to win
days?
very low. I have a very low handicap. Okay, let's go.
Sir, Chinese foreign
Back up a little bit.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry said that the market has spoken when asked about the tariffs. What do you make of that?
Market has spoken when they look at the fact that we have $1 billion trade deficit. When you look at the trade deficit that we have with certain countries, way over $1 billion per country. But with China, it's $1 trillion. And we have to solve our trade deficit with China. We have $1 trillion trade deficit with China. Hundreds of billions of dollars a year we lose with China. And unless we solve that problem, I'm not going to make a deal. Now, I'm willing to deal with China, but they have to solve their surplus. We have a tremendous deficit problem with China. They have a surplus of at least $1 trillion a year. I think it's like $1.1 trillion. And I want that solved. And no other president's taken it on. I had to take it on the last time, and then we had a rigged election. No other president's taken it on. And so China is, they say the market's spoken. The market, China is right now taking a big hit because everyone knows we're right. They have to pay tariffs because otherwise we have a surplus, that they have a surplus with us that is not sustainable.
Mr. President,
And we're talking about $1 trillion, you know that, right? We're not going to lose $1 trillion with the privilege of buying pencils from China.
on the idea of crashing the markets on purpose, there's been some speculation, partly because of the video that was posted on Truth Social, that there was some sort of deliberate effort on your part to have the market sell off. Can you talk about that?
No, that's not so. But I do want to solve the deficit problem that we have with China, with the European Union and other nations. And they're going to have to do that. And if they want to talk about that, I'm open to talking. But otherwise, why would I want to talk? And as you know, because of the tariffs, we have $7 trillion already committed to be invested in the United States, building auto plants, building chip companies, and all sorts of companies are coming into our country at levels that we've never seen before. Biden had nothing coming in. This was a dead country with Biden. He didn't know what he was doing, and that's now been proven at least.
Trump, this weekend, you talked to a lot of leaders this weekend. Can you tell us, sir, were there any deals made?
I spoke to a lot of leaders, European, Asian, from all over the world. They're dying to make a deal. But I said, we're not going to have deficits with your country. We're not going to do that because to me a deficit is a loss. We're going to have surpluses or we're at worst going to be breaking even. But China would be the worst in the group because the deficit is so big and it's not sustainable. And I was elected on this. This was one of the biggest reasons I got elected was exactly because of this. And we're going to put tariffs, we've already put them on. It's not a question of we will. We're going to put them on. And those tariffs next year will make us $1 trillion. In addition to the $1 trillion,
thousands of companies are going to relocate back into the United States. In North Carolina, already furniture people are starting to move back in. In Detroit and Michigan, which I won, because of what I said, what I'm telling you, car companies are starting to open up. In Indiana, a big one is under construction, as an example, Honda. But they're moving in like nobody has ever seen this before. So it's unsustainable for us to allow China to have surpluses of $1 trillion. We will be taking in over $1 trillion over the next short period of time with the tariffs that I've already instituted. They're already in place. Now, what's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger. And eventually, it'll be a country like no other. It'll be the most dominant country economically in the world,
Mr. President,
which is what it should be.
is there a Trump put though, or is there pain in the market at some point you're unwilling to tolerate this idea of a Trump put? Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I mean, I think it's I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something. And we have such a horrible, we have been treated so badly by other countries because we had stupid leadership that allowed this to happen. They took our businesses, they took our money, they took our jobs, they moved it to Mexico, they moved it to Canada, they moved a lot of it to China, and it's not sustainable. We're not going to do it. Now we have hundreds of billions of dollars that's pouring into our country. On a monthly basis, it's pouring, it's already started because they put tariffs on. And eventually it's going to straighten out and our country will be solid and strong again.
Elon Musk has said he hopes for zero tariffs between the U.S. and Europe. Is that a place you'd like to also get to?
Well, the problem is that Europe has made a fortune with us. You know, Europe also has had a tremendous surplus with the United States. Europe has treated us, it's a little smaller, but they've treated us very, very badly. China has, but Europe has also. Europe has been very, very bad to us. Europe has taken our leaders for a ride. They don't take our cars. They don't take our food products. They don't take anything. And we take their cars, Mercedes, Volkswagen, BMW. You know, we take their millions of cars. They take no cars. They don't take our farm product. They don't take anything. Europe's treated us very badly. We put a big tariff on Europe. They are coming to the table. They want to talk. But there's no talk unless they pay us a lot of money on a yearly basis. Number one for present, but also for past. Because they've taken a lot of our wealth away, and we're not going to allow it to happen.
Sir, have you talked to any tech leaders over the weekend about the tariffs?
Yeah, I talked to the biggest in the world. I talked to the biggest of them all. Many of them, but I've talked to, I would say 4 or 5 that are considered the biggest. They don't, and you know what they said? We don't blame you.
Who did you talk to?
I don't want to say. I'll put it out. I may give it to you.
NVIDIA CEO?
I have to find out if they mind. You know, I don't know if that was a confidential call or not, but we had 5 or 6. I've spoken to many countries. They all want to do, just so you understand the power of what I'm doing. Every country is calling and being very solicitous of us. Very, very nice. They're being very nice. And we have to be able to justify. This is not sustainable. The United States can't lose $1.9 trillion on trade. We can't do that and also spend a lot of money on NATO in order to protect European nations. We cover them with military, then we lose money on trade. The whole thing is crazy. And I got elected on that basis. We explained it. You know, the American people understand it a lot better than the media. But the media understands it. And much of the media writes correctly about it, I must say.
Sir,
okay.
Sir, when is the next set of talks with Russia and who will participate? And where are we in terms of making progress in terms of peace?
We're talking to Russia. We'd like them to stop. I don't like the bombing. The bombing goes on, and every week thousands of young people are being killed. And it's a horrible thing that should have never started, would have never started if I were president, 100%.
On the tariffs, is it a negotiation now? Bloomberg, sir. Is it a negotiation or rules of the road?
Go ahead, another question, please.
Sir,
About
She
TikTok.
has too many questions.
So about TikTok, there was a report that there was about to be a deal, but China changed its mind because of the
I'd say it
tariffs.
was largely true. The report is that we had a deal pretty much with TikTok. Not a deal, but pretty close. And then China changed the deal because of tariffs. If I gave a little cut in tariffs, they'd approve that deal in 15 minutes, which shows you the power of tariffs, right?
President, former New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu is saying that he'll win the open Senate seat in New Hampshire and that he has no doubt you'll support him if he runs. Is that true?
True. I told him, he came to my office, came to the Oval Office, and met with Chris Sununu, and I support him fully. I hope he runs. He's been very nice to me over the last year or so. But no, I hope he runs. I think he'll win that seat.
Sir, when we get into late summer, early fall, and people are doing their back-to-school shopping, do you think they'll have inflation to worry about at that point?
I think there's not going to be. I don't think inflation's going to be a big deal because if you look at me, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars. This is not new to me. I took in during my 4 years hundreds of billions of dollars from China. And we also took in a lot of money from other countries, but in particular China, because it was just getting started. And we had no inflation. Who had inflation was Biden. Biden had the worst inflation in the history of our country. I had no inflation. We had a perfect country. We had no wars. I ended them all. I defeated ISIS. Everything was good. And then when this numbskull got in, as they really call themselves now numbskulls, but when he got in, bad things happened to our country, including our open border. And now we're doing very well with, we have the best numbers on the border that we've ever had.
Speaking of the border, have you talked to Attorney General Pam Bondi recently about the cases going on with the deportations?
Yeah, sure. It's really sad when you think that Biden allowed millions of people to come in, and if they find one, now I will tell you, the one, somebody said he's a member of MS-13, not Tren de Aragua. He's a member of MS-13, and therefore he should immediately be brought back. Well, MS-13 is just as bad as Tren de Aragua. So they say, oh, we made a mistake because he's not with them, he's with MS-13. Bring him back, bring him back. MS-13 is a very bad group.
Sir,
Maybe as bad, actually.
How concerned are you about the measles outbreak? There was another fatality today, and what else would you like to see in terms of the response?
Well, I think they're doing reports on it. It's so far a fairly small number of people relative to what we're talking about. Something that people have known about for many, many years. I mean, measles has been, this is not something new. And we'll see what happens. But certainly, if it progresses, we'll have to take action very strongly.
El Salvador's president said on X that he'd been invited to the White House on April 14th for a working visit to discuss Tren de Aragua and MS-13 and other ways we can support each other, the U.S. and El Salvador. I was curious if you could expand more on what some of these other ideas you had for El Salvador.
Well, I think, you're in the way to that camera, by the way. You should at least say that the camera operator should probably say that she's shooting the back of your head. I don't know why she doesn't say it. I have to say it instead. I have great respect for him. I know him. I've known him for a long time. He's a young leader, and he's very tough on crime. Very, very tough on crime. And in their system, their prison system, they spend a tiny fraction of the money that this country spends. So, but he is coming in, I don't know when, but he is coming in sometime over the next couple of weeks.
What are you and Prime Minister Netanyahu going to speak about tomorrow?
We're going to talk about trade, and we're going to talk about the obvious subject. You know what the obvious subject is?
Do you have any news for us?
I'm trying to do trade just to keep it down. No, look, there's a lot of things going on with the Middle East right now that have to be silenced. We had no problem with the Middle East. Everything was done. We had no problem with Iran. We had no problem with anybody. And then you had October 7th. And that was all because Iran, as you know, was not giving money to anybody because they had no money. Now they have a lot of money. So we'll see what happens.
El Salvador, the president there said he would be willing to take American citizens in the federal prison population. Is that one of the ideas they're going to be discussing?
Well, I love that. If we could take some of our 20-time wise guys that push people into subways and that hit people over the back of the head and that purposely run people over in cars, If he would take them, I'd be honored to give them. I don't know what the law says on that, but I can't imagine the law would say anything different. If they can house these horrible criminals for a lot less money than it costs us, I'm all for it. But I'd only do according to the law. But I have suggested that, why should it stop just at people that cross the border illegally? We have some horrible criminals, American grown and born. And if we have somebody that bops an old woman over the head, if we have somebody that is in jail 20 times and goes back and shoots people all over the place and then has a bad judge or a bad prosecutor that do nothing about him, all they worry about is politics, and don't worry about that. I think if we could get El Salvador or somebody to take them, I'd be very happy with it, but I have to see what the law says. Okay, what else?
Can you say, did you agree to lowering tariffs for any of the countries that you spoke to today? So
What you understand, Jennifer, you have to understand this. We have massive surplus countries that we're dealing with. We have massive deficits. We've got to straighten that out because you can't continue to be that way. It's been that way for years now, and it can't go on any longer. And we're the piggy bank. We have all the advantages. Forget markets for a second. We have all the advantages. We're going to straighten out. We're going to become a wealthy nation again. Wealthy like never before. And we're not going to let other nations that have been ripping us off, whether it's China or the European Union, with all of the European nations that have just made, it's been like a feast. Look, the European Union was formed for one reason. You know what that was? To rip off the United States. So put that in your bonnet. I hope you had a good flight. Have a good time.
Thank you for your time, Mr. President.
See you tomorrow.
Very smart man. You heard that. He wants to make Americans rich again. My guess, everyone asks me what I think about the stock market. Wait 2 to 4 years, guys, and it's going to be at record-breaking numbers. Record-breaking numbers. Record-breaking numbers for the stock market. I guarantee you in 2 to 4 years. 2 to 3 years.
Hello, everyone, and I hope you're doing okay.
Record-breaking numbers, guys. Record-breaking numbers, the stock market, I guarantee it. In 2 to 4 years. Sorry, a random advertisement just popped up on my YouTube. Switching to my YouTube Premium account. Give me a second.
Let's bring in Hudson Institute Senior Fellow and Foreign Policy Expert Rebecca Heinrichs. Rebecca, what goal should President Trump have for this meeting, which is not just about tariffs? There's Iran, there's the war. There's a lot on the table in this meeting.
Well, I think that this meeting is going to be indicative of how the rest of these tariffs are going to go with all of our closest allies. We need to have a close working relationship with the Israelis. Obviously, it's very good under President Trump and Netanyahu, but as you said, we've got 6 B-2 stealth bombers right now in the region pointed at Iran. And so the Netanyahu is going to want to talk to President Trump about his plans for the Iranian nuclear program, for taking out Islamist terrorists out the region. And then, of course, we got to get those tariffs off. So you're going to have a conversation between these 2 closest allies.
If you watched any other news this weekend, the tone on the tariffs was 100% negative. Nobody has a good thing to say about this. I'm going to be contrarian. If these 2 leaders strike a deal on tariffs today, What message does that send to the rest of the world?
Trump is not striking a tariff deal in the first week. I'll tell you that. Like he just said in his recent interview, it's unacceptable that these countries have been making so much money off tariff in the USA, and we have done nothing about it. Absolutely nothing about it. So all you guys crying in the poll saying, oh, tariffs are for no reason, for no reason. What the hell are you talking about, no reason? What about all the countries that tariffed us first? Like, what about all the countries that tariffed us first? Any consideration for that? Or should we just beg and ask them to stop? Please, please. Guys, go check out my recent videos. Check out the recent videos of moving to Montenegro, traveling to the capital. Very interesting stuff.
The message it sends is President Trump is agile. He wants to make deals. He wants the economy to be booming, and he wants.
No, he doesn't want to make deals. He wants to make fair trade possible. Making deals is not something Trump wants to make. Guys, if Trump legitimately does any deals with any countries regarding the tariffs this week, I'll be in shock. That man seems to be standing on principle at the moment. Standing on principle sometimes is more important than anything else. You can't always just make a deal in the first week and say, oh, deal done, deal done. Like, it's not really about a deal. It's more about making money back for the United States that we lost. It's more about bringing American industry back than making these tariff deals. But if you're new to the channel, I'm always open to conversations. Hit the like and subscribe button. And yeah, I think that's it for today. I don't really have much more to talk about. Also, I have some things to do. So, peace out, guys. Have a good morning. Have a good day.